All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this month's webinar with Hostaway. We have yet another time of record signups. We're going to wait up till 45 seconds to make sure everyone is being let in. Yeah, Zoom is still opening the floodgates. And we should be good to go. There. Now we can start. All right. Welcome to the Hostaway webinar series. We're doing a special edition today. We're going to talk about leveraging communication for better guest reviews. We wanted to invite one of our customers to present on this topic, and we also wanted to incorporate some of our own data. We have recently been looking closer at the data. As we've grown so big, we have access to a lot of data on how to run a good property management business. We found a clear link between the way people communicate and the reviews that they're getting. At the same time, we know that there's a clear link between the reviews that you're getting and how many bookings you're getting. But before we get into all of that, I'll walk through the basics. We are going to record this. It's going to be available on YouTube if you're missing it. And let me just present who's on here. We got Michael Chang from Trustbnb, our partner or client here. Welcome very much, Michael. Then we have Maria, our VP of Product from Hostaway. We have Josh, our Chief Customer Officer. And once again, I'm Marcus from Hostaway. I'm the CEO and co-founder here. Before we get into the guest communication and Michael Chang's wisdom and experience, let me just share what Hostaway is. We are the leading all-in-one short-term rental software for property managers. We provide an all-in-one solution that makes it easier to, well, as Michael will tell you about, it makes it easier to get good reviews and make more money, but also save time. We're a truly global company. Here you can see our offices, but we're actually fully remote. So these are the places where we have a lot of people. And what makes us different from all the other solutions is that we are a preferred plus software partner of Airbnb, an elite partner of Vrbo, and a premier partner with Booking.com. And we have direct connections to Google Travel, Marriott Homes and Villas, Expedia, and TripAdvisors. There's nobody else that has that. So that's how we're different. But now I'd like to hand over to Michael Chang from Trustbnb. Michael, thank you very much for joining us here today. Before that, though, if the audience here has any questions, please add them to the QA section. Feel free to use the chat function as well. But if there's questions there, we may not be able to find them. But you can chat with each other. Hi, Michaela. And yeah. Go ahead. We'll answer the questions either as they come or at the end of the webinar. Michael, your turn.
Marcus, thank you very much for this opportunity. Everyone, thank you for spending some time with me and the Hostaway team today. And really honored that Marcus, Maria, Josh have given me the opportunity to share what I've learned over the last 6 years in building Trustbnb. And I just kind of want to, when I thought about the presentation and about our guests, the one common thing that came out was showing that you care. And that's what really the communication, the technology that Hostaway provides allows us to show the customers that we really care about them. And if we show that we care about them and can deliver a good experience, that hopefully will get us many reviews and many 5-star reviews. And just as a kind of showing, on that theme of showing that you care, I remember, so I joined Hostaway. I was a customer at Hostaway in November 2019, and of course, COVID happened. And Marcus was kind enough to sit down with me and probably all the other customers in Hostaway and showed that Hostaway cared about what his customers were going through that journey. And I always remembered that. So when they asked me to do this today, I was very, very happy to do that. So everyone, thanks again for spending the time. So just quickly on me, Michael Chang, I'm based in New York. We have about 30 properties now on Hostaway in our portfolio. A little bit of my background: I'm a former investment banker, finance was my background before I got into property management, so not a very traditional path. My wife and I built this business starting in 2016 when we were both working, and we've been able to build this business to something now that we both work full time in, and the technology part has been a huge piece of that puzzle in order to help us scale the business, which I'd love to talk about today. So just quickly, my background, I was at Citigroup and Merrill Lynch as an M&A investment banker, went to Cornell to get my MBA, and now we've built Trustbnb. So kind of go on the right side of the page there. So these logos really just going to show that anyone can really do this. It's such a broad swath of people that have come into the short-term rental space. Everyone does it a little differently. But I think the commonality is, like, if you show your customers that you care, you're going to get good reviews and you're going to build your business, get good revenue. So that's something I want to highlight. Next slide, please. Okay, so it wasn't always like this. This is our first, I just want to kind of show, this is pre-PMS, right? So we launched our first listing December 2016. No PMS system. Literally, it was my wife and I on our phone, copy and pasting messages from Airbnb, copy and pasting messages from our iPhone message app to the Airbnb app. That's how we communicated with customers. And I just want to show this is our first listing. So we all we all had to start somewhere. This was probably a lot of used furniture, some stuff from IKEA, and the space has really kind of evolved a lot from there, for us, both from a technology perspective and also from our listings. Next slide, please. So our portfolio today, so 6 years later through COVID, again, we're about 30 properties. So we have so we're not, I think we're a little, we're not a traditional property manager. So we own and control our entire portfolio of about 30 properties, 6 that we own. So 6 properties that we own in Tennessee, and the rest we use a strategy called rental arbitrage, which means that we rent the apartments from a landlord and then re-rent it on Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com with their express permission. So that's how we built our portfolio. From a communication perspective, we use Hostaway. We were using a prior platform before, and then we've migrated to Hostaway in 2019, and we've stayed ever since. So we're obviously very, very happy with the platform. We also use a software called Dialpad, which allows you to communicate with your guests through text messages and voice. And over 90% of our communications are now automated. So that's something I really want to focus on, is when you build and leverage, when you're trying to build a scalable business, you really have to try to automate as much as possible. And the technology has really allowed us to do that. And now we're not just my wife and I, we're a 4-person. We have 4 people that handle customer service for us. So I also want to highlight, the technology that you use. When you're building a team, you want to make sure that that technology can scale with your company. That it's not just you as the business owner, but that you can build a team and your technology can support building a team. And that's another key aspect of when we were deciding on a PMS system that we eventually chose Hostaway. So next slide, please. So quickly, just I just want to show our portfolio today. The ones below are the ones we own. The ones above are the ones that are apartments that we rent. And you can see, the game definitely has evolved since 2016, and your design is also very important. So we're not going to hit on that today, but just want to show the evolution of our portfolio and just a way of showing how our technology stack has evolved since then. We were definitely, kind of that old picture that you saw in 2016, and today we're a little more advanced. And I'd love to kind of share with you a little bit more about how we've been able to move along that journey. Next slide, please. Okay, so show that you care, right? And that's really the key theme of the next 2 slides that I want to share with you. You want the guests to feel that you care about them. And this doesn't mean that you have to show up and hand them keys and walk them through the apartment or walk through the property. You can do this virtually and through technology. And we've spent a lot of time in building business processes to do that from far away. So I live in New York. My team is broadly spread around the globe. And our properties are, Philadelphia, which is 2 hours away, and then Tennessee, which is like 10 hours away. So physically impossible for us to be there for the guests. So we have to leverage technology to show them that we care. And, hopefully they come back and book with us again and leave us a good review. So just to take a step back, right? The customer communication journey, we've really broken down to 4 different pieces, right? It's a time of booking, before they check in, during their stay and after they check out, right? So really kind of, if you break down that communication journey, it's kind of 4 key steps. So for us, there's at least 7 touch points in this journey. And we found that to be a kind of good number of touch points, a good number of times we're messaging a guest without annoying them too much, but giving them the right information. And we always want to make sure that we're responding to questions in 2 minutes or less, right? One big thing that customers really care about is responsiveness, especially if they have an issue, like if they can't check in their property. No one wants to wait outside for 5-10 minutes in the cold after driving for 4 hours to get into your property, right? So you really want to make sure that if you get asked a question, that you're responding right away, or at least they know that you're working on something. Okay. So 7 touch points, response time less than 2 minutes. Now, the time of booking, right? At booking, it's really important. So your listing has a big part in play in this, but also the way that you communicate with your guests about questions before booking. I think it's really important to set expectations up front, right? Both good and bad. What you don't, the biggest thing is you want to avoid surprises, especially negative surprises after a guest checks in, right? So just to give a quick example, we have property in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is an urban city in the US, and some of them are along a main street, and it can get very, very loud. So before, we didn't have that in the description, and we got a lot of guest complaints on like, it's too loud, I can't sleep. We're like, okay, well, I can't do anything about us being on a main street. What can we do? So we just put in a listing there, like in very prominent letters, like we are along a main street in Philadelphia. It will be noisy, especially during the summer. Just, we'll provide earplugs, but be aware. And the negative reviews, the negative questions actually came down a ton, like over 90%, because people knew what to expect, right? So that's a part of the technology piece as well, but really just being upfront and setting expectations, both good and bad, right? You talk about if you have a great swimming pool or a great view, you should be very upfront about that. You should also be upfront about if there's something potentially negative about the property, so people know. Okay. And the second thing is acknowledge special occasions, especially if you have a big property or people are coming for, family reunion, some big thing. At least acknowledge it. If you can't do anything special for them, like, hey, really happy to welcome you to our property because of your anniversary. Let us know if we can be helpful to you, right? That also helps with getting, showing that you care and getting a good review. Okay, so that's step 1. So step 2 is pre-check-in. So we have something called a 74, 48, 24 rule. And all that means, so actually, let me take a step back. Before they check in, you want to make sure they have all the information they need to check in seamlessly, right? So they know where they're going, they know how to check in, they know where it is. So you want to really make sure that they don't have any problems getting into the property. So what we do is there's an automated messaging feature on Hostaway, and you want to make sure that you're pushing as much information as possible to your guests, right? Don't worry about overloading them. I've never experienced that. We send a very, very long message with a lot of detail. You want to send it to them 72 hours beforehand. Hey, you're checking in 72 hours. These are the directions. This is how you get in. We basically send the same message 24 hours later, 48 hours later. So that's 2 messages, right? And then 24 hours before, we'll ask them, hey, I just want to make sure that you have all the information you need to check in. Can you just let me know if you do? And if not, let me know if you have any questions. So we kind of, again, we're touching them 3 times before they check in so that they know that we care and want to make sure that they have a good experience coming in. And one little trick that we've learned actually is using videos. So if you have anything if any part of your check-in process that might be a little confusing, maybe the keys in a weird place, the properties, like, you have to find the property, for example, maybe it's kind of tucked in somewhere, provide a video. So what we do is we record a video for every part of the check-in process, and we upload it to YouTube. And then we have a link that we put in the automated message that goes to that video. And that saved us a ton of questions. The last thing you want is someone to FaceTime you when they're trying to check in. So for folks that have properties that maybe there's a little bit tricky, or there's a little trickiness on the check-in part, make sure you take videos and incorporate it within your automated messages. We found it to be very, very, very helpful. Next slide, please. Okay. By the way, folks, I hope this is helpful. If it is, just give me, nod your head on the webinar. If you have any questions, please put in the Q&A and we'll address it afterwards. Okay. Last slide for me. So during the stay, right? So our philosophy is actually, we want to minimize guest communication. We don't like, once you check in, and we want them to enjoy their time, right? We don't want them to, be answering a bunch of questions for us unless there's an issue. So 24 hours after they check in, we'll send them this automated message. We send them an automated message. Is everything okay? If there are any issues, please let us know. If not, no need to respond. We hope you're having a good stay. And so that's just the check-in, but we hope to never actually hear from them, because if there's no issues, then, they should just be enjoying their time. And then also to minimize guest communication, we want to put all the information out there so they have access to it. So the guest book has all the information about the property, where the thermostat is, what the Wi-Fi information. So things that your guests are going to need, how to work the hot tub, where's the pool, et cetera, et cetera. And then we also provide a guidebook that gives them, where's the supermarket, where's fast food, where's, all the little things that you think they'll need for their trip, just so they have it there. They don't have to bother you like, hey, where's the nearest, grocery store? Like, they can find it on the guidebook. One, it's a better guest experience for them. Two, it minimizes the amount of work for you and your staff. Now, issues come up, right? Things break. It's just a fact of property management. Things break. AC breaks, door doesn't work, toilet's running, whatever the case may be. So this is where, we will get on the phone with them. We'll talk with them, make sure that they're doing okay. But we tell them that we want to acknowledge the problem. We want to tell them that we're fixing it, update them on the status. And when it's resolved, actually checking in with them, hey, did they actually fix the problem? Now, this isn't something you can automate, right? This is something you actually, have to personally do or train your staff to do. But it really, what we've learned is just showing that you care. And even if you can't fix it, say it's a weekend, it's a Saturday night, you're checking out Sunday, something breaks, you can't get anyone there. At least that you're showing that you care and hey, I'm sorry, this is what we can do to make it right for you. You'll be surprised that you're like, oh, it's okay, I get it. Things happen. I'm just glad that you responded right away. And, a lot of times they don't even care. But just if you try to ignore it, that's going to cause a problem for you. Okay. Now, pre-checkout, 24 hours for a checkout, we'll send them a message saying, hey, really on an automated message again, we're really, we hope you enjoyed your stay. This is your checkout time. And if you don't mind, there are a few things that we'd like for you to do before you check out. Now, I know there's a big meme out there about these long chore lists, which I think rightfully, people are getting roasted on for making their guests their cleaners. It's not something you want to do. So really trying to minimize the chores. All we ask them to do is tidy up after themselves and save the environment, right? So just really, really easy things, right? Load the dishwasher, just put all the trash in the trash cans. We'll take it all out, right? Save the environment. It's a better way of, instead of asking them to turn off the lights and thermostat, just say, hey, can you help? We want to help save the environment. Please turn on the thermostat to X. Please make sure you close the blinds or turn off the lights, right? People, we found it to be a much better way of asking them to do these little chores that, really do help the environment, but also keep your heating and your electricity bills down. So that's a pre-checkout. That's one message. Now, lastly, the seventh message is post-checkout. We don't want to send them. I think what a lot of people do is they send a message at the time of checkout or an hour after checkout. Hey, can you leave a review? You know what? Most people are already they're on the way to the airport, they're driving home, they're trying to get their kids in the car. Wait a little bit, 24 hours after they check out, let them get to where they're going to go, let them get settled in, and then politely ask for a review. Hey, we really hope we're a small family business. We really hope that you enjoyed your stay. If there's any issues, let us know. If not, we'd love to, we would appreciate a 5-star review, or we would appreciate a good review and really help our business. So, that for us is that customer journey and showing the guests that we care, right? These 7 touch points. But it's not just the 7 messages that you're sending, it's all the work in the background of that, right? The guidebook, the guest book when they're in there, making the videos so that, if they have any questions, they can just hop onto YouTube and look at how to open the lock, for example, if there's something tricky about your lock, so that you don't have to sit there and explain it and they can self-serve themselves. So this is what's worked for us. This is a lot of learnings that we've developed over the last 6 years on how to deliver a great customer experience to our guests, and while minimizing the amount of back and forth that we need to do, and leveraging the technology that Hostaway has provided for us in order to accomplish that. So I hope this is helpful, and happy to answer any questions you may have in the Q&A section. So with that, Marcus, Maria, Josh, thanks for I'll turn it back to you guys.
Thank you very much. And now I believe, Josh, your team has prepared some interesting data based on.
Very interesting data. Thanks, Marcus. Thanks, Michael, for joining us. It's always good to see you, and I appreciate you sticking on with us from 2019. Golly, man, been here a long time. That's good. So when I was going over this, and what I see quite often, and it's quite interesting, is I was actually talking about this earlier with our customer success team here at Hostaway, is the guest experience that you guys provide as property managers often aligns with something we call the customer experience. But I know that Michael was talking about and when he was going through his slides, but it's the same thing, right? The engagement matters when you have guests there, right? At the end of the day, you want your guests to be happy. You want them to feel safe, and ultimately give a 5-star review. And how you do that really is making sure that you're engaging and just providing that good customer or guest experience. So what we've done is we pulled some data here for you. These are reservations that were completed within the last 60 days here at Hostaway that received reviews. And so some interesting things here that it came up that we looked into, and we'll continue to provide these sorts of stats to you as we on webinars we pull here, provide for the customers here at Hostaway. So the first one is with 5-star reviews. Messages that mentioned Wi-Fi received 5-star 97%, 5-star reviews 97% of the time. So why is that? So this is interesting, and it's actually something that Michael brought up whenever we were talking about this webinar, is sending that information to your guest before they ask, right? How many people have came? How many people do you know that came to your properties? And the first thing they do is ask for Wi-Fi, even if you might have it somewhere on your listing or in the guest portal. And they just ask the question. The first thing you want to log into is Wi-Fi. So it's an interesting fact that data point that we pulled, that out of all the messages sent, out of all the 5-star reviews that we got here, or the reviews we got in the last 60 days, 97% of them mentioned Wi-Fi. So if you think about that and you add on to that, what are you missing from your, I guess, welcome email or whatever you guys want to call it in the sequence of that Michael was talking about sending out? What are you guys missing that customers are asking about over and over and over? How can you make that data easier for your guests to get, right? Because if they're happy and they're not having to message you back and forth a bunch of times, the likelihood of them leaving a review, the data shows, is higher. And then also to hit on the same thing as what we deal with on a customer success, as our customer support team does here, is the response rate, right? When somebody emails into support here at Hostaway, one of the KPIs, one of the key indicators here, performance indicators, is the response time, right? How often are we responding? Because at the same thing as you guys as a guest, right? They want to have a quick response. As Michael talked about as well, he had a SLA on his, which was under 24 hours. So if we look at that and the data, 95% of the 5-star reviews we had in the last 60 days of reservations here at Hostaway, they responded within 24 hours. So responsiveness definitely is a key driver towards you getting a 5-star review. And then guest experience with the guest portal. The guest portal plays a significant part in the guest experience, right? So our guest portal provides valuable information for clients, gathering details, additional services right at their fingertips. So again, going back to the ease of use of staying at your property, having that guest portal, responding to guests quickly is all part of the experience. So you don't have to message back and forth. You make it easy to do and very seamless for them. So we took into the reservations, we broke those down, and 91% of the 5-star reviews we collected that were collected in the last 60 days utilize the guest portal. So finally, we want to talk about touch points. As Michael stated earlier, you don't want to have too many guest interactions, so over bothering the guests, but you also don't want to have too little, right? You don't want to be completely hands off, right? You want to make sure the guest knows that you're there, even if they don't need you, right? So there's a fine line you got to draw there. So Michael put together his is 7, right? That's the sweet spot for Michael and his property management company. Now, again, it goes back to kind of how you're set up, right? Michael sends a lot of information in those sequences, right? So he's kind of figured out the sweet spot is 7 based on all this, the outlined guest experience that he has, guest journey that he has, right? So this is going to be different. You're going to have to kind of play around with this and figure out what that sweet spot is. But again, it's going to come down to why this matters, right? So 79% of the 5-star reviews in the last 60 days had an engagement point with the guest in 4 or less messages, 79%. So on the other hand, if you look at it, 89% of the 5-star reviews collected in the last 60 days sent between 4 and 6. So again, Michael said his was 7. That's the sweet spot for his setup that he's perfected over the last couple of years. And I hope it doesn't take you guys here on this call 4 years to figure that sweet spot out. I think the reason why we got someone like Michael that's been doing this since 2019 is he's kind of had to walk through the briar patch, and figure this out as he's gone on. So it's, again, great to have you, Michael, to kind of give your expertise on this. And again, we'll continue to offer data insights on our webinars. Anything we can do as a company to help your business out, either by streamlining your operations, increasing your revenue, or enhancing your guest experience, which will provide you guys with more revenue with 5-star reviews, we want to provide. So with that, I want to turn it over to my counterpart, Maria, who our VP of Product, to kind of walk through how Hostaway can do this for you. Maria?
Excellent. Thank you, Josh. And great to have you here, Michael. I think it's been very, very informative for me. You all heard Michael on the importance of keeping a good communication flow with your guests and how important it is to leverage technology to help you be efficient at it as well and be successful, right? So, of course, at Hostaway, we have we always try to bring the features and the functionality that make you successful. One of them, obviously, is our reviews feature. I saw a question, I think, in the chat before, asking about if we had a connection for reviews from Airbnb, on integration with the Airbnb reviews API. Yes, actually, we had that since 2020. And since then, we've been adding a lot of functionality based on your feedback, based on the learnings like our customers like Michael bring to us, to the product team. So since then, we've added booking.com, Airbnb, booking.com, booking engine reviews as well. You are now able to publish reviews in Google Vacation Rentals and decide which ones to send to Google, so you can manage the experience there. You can also decide which reviews will show in the booking engine. Again, you can manage your branding, your guest experience, again, through the booking engine. I'll go back to this, the one bolded in a minute, but you can reply to guest reviews from the dashboard. So you don't have to go to Airbnb, you don't have to go to booking.com to do that. You can do it directly from Hostaway. You can edit, cancel pre-generated reviews if something happens. So maybe the stay didn't go as well as you thought. So then you can edit the message or even cancel the whole review. You can view review rates per category, and you can view the comments from any review coming from all the channels, right? And this is, for me, very, very important, because aggregating this data in one place, and then we allow you, obviously, to own that data, download that as a CSV and use it for analysis. It's super important for something that Michael said before, that's getting the guest point of view, getting the guest feedback as well, is going to help you optimize for good and bad. So you will have access through our reviews feature for all of the comments, and specifically for Airbnb, the comments and the rating per category. So a use case that I see a lot with our customers is they want to see how the cleaning crews are doing, right? So they check what is the cleanliness rating category for their properties. And based on that feedback, they can go back to the cleaners and say, okay, maybe you need to improve here, or good job, whatever it is, right? So this is very important. So use the data to your advantage as much as possible. Going back to that line there, automated review host to guest for Airbnb. So you can obviously automate sending the reviews to the guests for Airbnb. And this is important because for Airbnb, responsiveness is a ranking factor. So being able to respond on time to the guests, whether it is for a review, whether it's for communication or normal messaging, is a ranking factor. So, and also because they tell us that if you are the first one or you actually review the guest before the guest reviews you, the likelihood of getting a good review increases by 20%. from the guest. So it's important you try this out. Obviously, you have to optimize the system to what works for you the best. But it's a data point that I think it was interesting to bring here. Of course, all of the channels, they tell us that the higher the score you have on reviews, the better the conversion, of your properties. In the case of Airbnb, it's quite interesting because an average, all those properties that have an average of 5 stars, reviews represent 65% of bookings globally for Airbnb. So that's something that cannot be dismissed, and definitely something that I think everyone should strive for. So if you, Josh, or who has the control here, I forgot, if you come to the next slide. All right, thank you. All right, so one specific feature or functionality will facilitate things, of course, but if you can't have the ability to set up an entire guest experience flow for in one place, I think things will suddenly become a little bit more difficult or more cumbersome, right? So that's why myself, my team, and we always try to bring to the products all the features that you need, and at the same time provide you with the flexibility to tailor these features to your operations model, to your business model. So in addition, obviously, to the reviews feature, something that you can do in Hostaway is automate the touch points with the guest. So Michael provided very good examples. He has 7 touch points that he automates to Hostaway, so you can create this communication. I think there was a question also in the Q&A about what happens with last minute reservations. So there is a toggle. You can decide whether automations go out for last minutes, even if the time scheduling doesn't fit within the configuration or not. So it's something that you can set up on Hostaway as well. You can, of course, already Josh mentioned it, use the guest portal to provide a better experience and make money while doing it, because the guest portal is what is gonna define the relationship between you and the guest through the different statuses of the reservation. So if a reservation comes in that needs to be paid for, you can use the guest portal to collect payment. If you can actually upsell services through it as well. So that's why we say here, make money while doing it. If you need to have a rental agreement signed, you can use our rental agreements templates, modified however you like, and have it electronically signed by the guest. And you can use that signature as leverage as well within the system to decide whether you send some type of information. For instance, if the agreement is not signed, so you will not automatically send door codes or check-in instructions. Use the online check-in form to ensure good guest fit. This is a security layer for you. Rental agreement is also a security layer for you, but the online check-in form is the same. You can use our online check-in form to collect IDs, to collect selfies, to collect all of the guests, the information about all of the guests that are staying in your property. The form can be set up in whichever way you need. So basically, whatever pieces of information you need to collect, you can set it up to have that information on the form. And at the same time, you can get more data from the guests, for instance, if they need arrival times, and we will update the reservation with those arrival times as well. If they need early checkout, early check-in or late checkout, etc. And you can also monetize that eventually. So all of the flow to improve the guest experience, to improve the guest communication is here at Hostaway. We made it very flexible. I think that's one of our mission and vision from Hostaway is to make sure that we help you all, and we make you all successful with your different ways of that you operate. And therefore, if you need to leverage this technology and to make sure that it's successfully set up for you, please make sure that you contact our lovely customer success team represented here by Josh, because they will be very happy helping you do that. And that's all I had. One thing I want to mention as well before we close. So I think there was a question about guidebooks. Guidebooks is something that it's in the roadmap for us. We will start working on the next quarter. So that's something that's you will soon be able to use as part of your guest experience workflow.
All right. Thank you very much, Maria, for setting us all up for success here with all of these tools. Now, let's try to tackle the QA sections. Do we have a list of live events? That's an interesting question. Nathan is asking, if you mean live in-person events, we are going to be at least at VRMA International in Orlando in October. So please reach out to our customer success team if you want to meet us there. We're also participating in a lot of local events. Josh, go ahead, please. If you wanted to.
You get it. You get it.
Yeah, the dates for VRMA International are, let me see, they are in the 22nd to the 25th of October, and they're going to be in Orlando. All right. If Michael, if you see any of the questions here you'd like to take them, please go ahead. Same thing for you, Maria and Josh.
Yeah, quick plug on that. If you're going to be at VRMA, we're going to have a really extravagant VIP only, invite only party. So if you're interested in joining us in Orlando, email customer success at hostaway.com. We'll get you set up.
Cool. Well, I see a few questions, so I'll address them quickly, but Maria, please feel free to jump in. So saw a question about adding. So broadly speaking, if there's something negative about your property, should you be reticent on adding it because you fear that your bookings will drop off and losing income? Look, I'll say it was a tough decision to put on a negative aspect about the property. But think about it this way, right? You're going to be finding your property is already going to get negative reviews if you don't disclose it and you're surprising your guests. So be upfront, because the people that are going to book the property already know it. They've accepted that, hey, it's a busy place. It's going to be loud. I'm fine with it. And you're going to get better reviews. So it's better to disclose than hide it and then, try to manage around that. It's a lot more work for you. And in the end, you're going to come to a better place if you disclose some of the drawbacks of your property, because you're going to find that some people don't really care and they're going to have the 5-star experience there versus getting people that really care about that are like very light sleepers. And then you're going to have a big issue.
Yeah, I could add there, Michael. I completely agree with that, and I think there was a question here. I couldn't find it, but someone was asking on whether people are reading the descriptions and the amenities, and they're reading it and they still complain with it. One of the big misconceptions that I had when I started renting out places was that my perception of the area and my background and my experience being there as a guest in my own property is essentially the same as everyone else's. Turns out that was not the case at all. And I'll give a very practical example. I don't need air conditioning I didn't need it in one of the properties that we had because we spent most of the day outside and it got cold at night. So you really didn't need air conditioning. But what I didn't realize was that for people like me, which were about 60% of the guests, they, of course, didn't need air conditioning. But the other 40% were coming from places where they expected, or from a background or experience where they expected air conditioning. And that's why I got bad reviews from those 40%. Now, the answer here is obviously not to try to restrict those 40% from booking. The answer is here to just admit that the way you and maybe some other guests experience your property is not the same way that others experience it. And there's a very simple trick to finding out, okay, well, what is the norm for the area? Because you're probably local to your own area, but many travelers are not local to the area. Just check around, what are the other properties having? What do their reviews say? take one of the properties that has 100 reviews at 4.98 and one that has 4.58 and compare the text in between. And very soon you'll start to see the patterns and you don't even need to wait for the reviews to come in.
Exactly. I think that's a great point. And I'll just hit one other question. Why do we use Dialpad? So Dialpad is to communicate with your guests, you need to talk to them sometimes as well. Dialpad, there's other platforms you can use, but that's what we use to talk to guests when they have questions. It's obviously, sometimes this is better than using the phone. There's also, or just using automated messages. There is a text message feature within Hostaway. We use that sometimes, but we also like being able to text the guests, especially giving the updates if something's broken. We actually use SMS a lot in those situations. They really actually want to know. They're not looking at their Airbnb app or their emails. So, you can just kind of think about how you want to, picking different channels to communicate with your guests the most effectively. If it's sending information, emails and the Airbnb app, whatever is fine. But if it's something a little more real time, you want to get on the phone with them. You want to be able to communicate through text message. That latency is going to be a lot faster, smaller, especially for those kind of situations. So that's why we use Dialpad. The SMS messaging in Hostaway is a bit limited. It's been 140 characters, so it's for very specific use cases. It's not a broad. At this juncture, it's not a broad enough technology that we can, or it's not flexible enough for us to use for different use cases. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the team.
Thanks. I'll answer a question here from Sarah. She's asking, can you expand on the cancel pre-generated reviews, please? What it means is that you can set a default review that is going out to every guest. But when you sense that there's something wrong in the relationship, or maybe something wrong with the guest experience, you can cancel that. So you can already, when they're staying, you can say, okay, for this guest, I don't want the message to go out with a pre-generated review of the guest until you actually find that out. And if you have a message asking for a review, you can do the same thing. You can cancel it proactively. So that helps. Actually, there's one thing I forgot to say at the beginning. The inspiration for this entire webinar was one that we held with Airbnb. You can find it on YouTube. It was last month, I think. And they said that when a host leaves a review of the guest within 24 hours of checkout, there is a 40% higher chance that they receive a 5-star review. And that set our mind spinning. Okay, well, what are the other ways you can get 5-star reviews? And we started looking into the data, and we saw that a lot of it had to do with communication. So keep that in mind. I'll take one more question before I give it over to the team. I think it's a really good question here from Wilrick. He says, Hostaway works with some channels, but some other PMSs with 25 or 30 channels. Do you see that as a limitation, or do you feel fine with the fewer major channels? I think the data is pretty clear. There are market leaders where the bookings are coming in, but ultimately, if you're scaling a business, you need to be an expert at your entire customer journey. That means everything that Michael talked about, but you also need to understand what happens even before the booking. How do they even find the property? And the truth is that most people are going to use, for example, Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com, Expedia, and yes, you can list your place on 25 different websites, but you won't, to be perfectly honest, you won't get many bookings from there. The exception here is, of course, your own website, where you can choose keywords that people might be looking for. But I can say that we have implemented other channels in the past. Whenever it looks like someone is going to get a lot of bookings from them, a good example here is Google Travel, that we have seen a really huge amount of success with. And we are one of the first systems to implement that. But just because there are 1,000 booking websites out there, we don't, unless we see bookings come from there, we're definitely not going to promote that, because we also want to guide people like Michael to do the right thing. And for example, learn everything about how to manage the guest experience, because that's what makes the business successful. We don't want to bring distractions. For example, list on this website, you might get one booking. Yeah, that's a distraction and it's not repeatable. If you can get hundreds of bookings from a website, wouldn't you agree with this, Michael?
Yeah, no, I'm nodding in violent agreement. It's, you can't do everything. And I think, you know, people try to, you know, you push, there's a lot of different ways to get bookings, but the best way that at least we found is to be just really, really good on the 4 major OTAs. Make sure your listings are good, your reviews are good, you're responding on your reviews, you're reading your reviews so that you know if there are issues in your properties that you can address. You're just not going to be able to do that in a long tail of 25 separate OTAs. So it's actually better to just really focus your efforts on the biggest ones and just make sure you're really, really good, because 99% of the time you're going to get all your listings and your business from there. There's two other points I want to bring up too. Is once you have more, you're going to be dealing a lot more payments and chargebacks, and those are death to a business. So, you know, that's what's good about Airbnb and some of these other platforms to handle payments for you. So you actually don't want to be doing that yourself, and you can avoid it. And the last point is, like, you really want to find a PMS actually that's just really that makes your Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com, Google Travel, Expedia experience really, really good, because you don't want the engineering resources spread too thin, and then that core product starts to weaken because you're trying to support 25 different OTAs. Like, that's actually not a really good strategy. And that's, you know, we continue, you know, I'm obviously a customer of Hostaway for a long time, I'm a big fan of the product, but we obviously, we regularly evaluate the competition too and see what's out there and what's good. So, you know, we stay with Hostaway because we like the platform. And it's because they really do these like core things really, really well, which we really care about. We care about getting all of our messages. We care about like the software just like working and not having downtime. The last thing you want to do on here is have a piece of software that goes off for 24 hours when you're trying to run your business. It is an absolute nightmare. And that's happened with some of the other competing products. And I'm just really glad that, you know, that doesn't happen here, because that would really throw our business into a tailspin. So great work, Maria. We love you.
Yeah, that's a compliment. Thank you. Definitely, we make a big effort to provide you with the best tools, obviously, to be successful. I think the effort that we've been putting in the past few years as well to become the higher status. I think Marcus mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, right? So those high partner status that we have with the OTAs, with the big OTAs, they're not by chance. There's a very strategic drive for us to make sure that we have those connections, the best connections possible, because we understand that and every system that integrates. I know you spoke about SMS, etc. So there's a roadmap for SMS as well to make sure that we improve it and you can find it more useful than today. There's a roadmap for adding more functionality to the customer journey, like guidebooks. So we're always trying to increase the offering, always trying to make sure what we do is the best quality possible, because we understand that any flaws in the system will have a cost for you, and that's what we don't want to have. All right, so I'm not sure there are many more questions here. There's a question on Booking about Booking.com, and often being rated 0 for staff, and myself catering has no staff. Let me check with Booking.com. Basically, a consequence of being a premier partner with Booking.com is that we have a dedicated person for us to answer these questions. So let me check with Booking.com, and we will get back to you, Luis, on that.
Thanks, Maria. Yeah, and Mickey and some others. We keep talking about events and then coming to see us, Marcus. You're getting more famous, you know. So yeah, if you're going to be in any VRMA event, we're pretty much at now going to have representatives at any VRMA event. As far as a list, we do send emails out whenever we're going to be at an event. So we'll have that coming up. We do have t-shirts for sure that we'll be able to help you out with. Maria's sporting one today, so we'll make sure you take care of that. And then also anything that you guys ever hear on these webinars, feel free to reach out customer success at Hostaway. That's a direct line to our customer success team. If you want to continue the conversation of setting up your auto reviews or how Hostaway can help streamline your operations, get you more revenue, provide a better guest success experience through technology, those are the people you need to talk to. Customer success at hostaway.com. That's what the team members there are for, is to make you get more money and get more reviews, which in turn gets you more money. And I think that's it, Marcus, unless you've got something, or Michael, you guys want to talk about before we head out?
No, I just wanted to thank everyone for joining here, especially Michael. It was a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much for your detailed explanation and your personal journey here. And it's great to see that we share so many experiences.
Thank you, Marcus. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, and thank you to your team as well for building a great product.
Thank you. All right. See you everyone next month. Bye.